Welcome back, everyone, to Rhody College Game Day. I'm Noah McLane, and alongside me, just like every week, Connor Derosia and Jonny Blair. We welcome you into Week 2, and folks, we have a fantastic show for you this week. Ahead of a 12 p.m. kickoff against the Big Ten Minnesota Golden Gophers. We're going to talk about the CAA in Week 1. We're going to talk about URI still chasing that big signature FBS win, and we're also going to be talking about the importance of every single aspect of the game, guys. That includes the special teams, and then, of course, we have some very interesting game predictions for this weekend. And without further ado, Week 2 of College Game Day right here. Welcome back, everyone, here on Rhody Football Game Day. Connor Derosia, Jonny Blair, and Noah McLane. Well, right now, we're going to break down what happened in the CAA in Week 1. And, guys, there was a lot of interesting things. Let's start off with the preseason playoff contenders and the top 25 poll. The Villanova, William and Mary, UAlbany, guys, they all took care of business as to be expected. And multiple CAA programs opened their season with FBS contests. And let you guys have some of the results that followed those games.
Yeah, so starting off, it's going to be New Hampshire, who took on Central Florida and lost a tough one, losing by over 50 points in that game. But then you followed up with Wake Forest, who took care of NC-A&T with a 32-point win. And then you move on to Elon, who closed things out against Duke and ran away with a 26-3 victory in the second half.
Wrapping up, Towson lost to Cincinnati. Stony Brook faltered against Marshall, and Campbell was beaten by Liberty to round out the FCS versus FBS in Week 1.
The top 25 team in Richmond suffered a loss in their season opener to the Virginia Cavaliers, only sliding a few spots in the rankings. And then also Hampton started their season with a heartbreaker of a loss, 30-28, the final there against Morgan State. And then Delaware, no friend to URI in their final season as a member of the CAA, won their opener 48-17 against Bryan, who suffered a brutal loss in their first ever game as a member of the conference.
Meanwhile, Monmouth suffered a 42-27 loss to Eastern Washington, but Maine took care of business against Colgate in a defensive battle with a final score of 17-14.
Yeah, and your Rhode Island Rams took care of business right here at Meade Stadium against Holy Cross in a last-second touchdown. We're calling it the miracle at Meade. URI receiving 26 votes for the AFCA FCS Coaches Poll Top 25 as well.
A lot of interesting stuff to talk about right there, guys. And, of course, URI taking care of their job, which is the number one thing that we'll be keeping you updated with. That's a look at the CAA Week 1 recap. We'll be back with more right after this. Welcome back to Rhody Football Game Day as we are going to take a look at that chase for an FBS win for the Rhode Island Rams. Connor Derosia, Jonny Blair, and Noah McLane. Let's break it down. We go back to 2019 where the Rams played two different FBS opponents, both Virginia Tech and Ohio. Ohio, well, they were able to hold Ohio to close for most of that game, but then kind of snuck away. Ohio under 200 yards passing, but they were not able to get that victory. And then against Virginia Tech against the Hokies in that game, just going into the fourth quarter, down a touchdown, 24-17, but then the Virginia Tech Hokies pulled away, winning that one by a final score of 34-17.
And then we go on towards 2021, where URI would take down UMass, a team that would end up finishing that season 1-11 by a score of 35-22. That's URI's first FBS win. And then in 2022, they traveled to Pitt to face now New York Jets running back Israel Abanikanda, where URI held things close for the first half, but then in that second half, things kind of fell apart for them a little bit, and Pitt would end up taking that one.
And last year's FBS matchup in 2023 was up against Georgia State, which ended in a heartbreaking fourth down controversial call. The Rams would lose 42-35 in that one, but put up over 500 yards of total offense. Offense was not the issue there. But they're looking forward to this upcoming game against Minnesota. Minnesota comes in not looking too great on offense against North Carolina in that first game. They came in expecting to be a great defensive team, and that's exactly what they are. They only put up 17 points last week and lost on a potential game-winning field goal. Minnesota's offensive line all measure over 6'5" and 300 pounds, so controlling the trenches for the Rams is key and crucial to potentially getting this miracle upset in Minnesota.
You're absolutely right, Connor. You nailed it on the head. We move forward to looking at this weekend. The Rams have to be perfect on every side of the ball. Perfection is the name of the game. You hear it about just all around at practice today. That is the message that's being preached. And now, guys, this leaves us with the question, can this weekend against Minnesota be another opportunity and be the opportunity for the Rams to put a statement out in front of, national fans Saturday, 12 o'clock on Peacock? Welcome back to Rhody Football Game Day. Connor Derosia, Jonny Blair, and myself, Noah McLane. Guys, as you know, for any FCS team to take on an FBS opponent and walk away with a victory, every aspect of their game needs to be just fantastic. It needs to be on point. It needs to be done with purpose. And the motto is you need to move the ball 3 more feet. That comes into play in just about every aspect of this weekend's matchup between Minnesota when they head down to Huntington Bank Stadium and need to walk in with passion.
Last week, your URI Rams looked pretty solid on special teams especially. Had 1 blocked field goal, but Jaden Griffin almost had 2 blocked punts, and Wesley Neal nearly blocked a field goal going right up the middle.
And going into this matchup against the Golden Gophers, the Rams will have to do something they didn't particularly do that well against Holy Cross, which is win the field position battle. But also, just playing technically sound and fundamental football is going to be key going into this game, not turning the ball over, winning the battle in the special teams department, and also, you previously mentioned, the Golden Gophers offensive line kind of having that size advantage, so controlling the offensive and defensive line for Rhode Island is going to be key going into this game.
Absolutely. Everything needs to be perfect. And, guys, I think another thing to point out is the family aspect. When you go into an environment like this where a lot of players have not played together in an environment like this, there's a couple of guys on this roster that do have experience in this kind of game, but that number is small. So everyone needs to be on the same page, and we will be excited. Right after this, we're going to break down what we think the final score predictions and a couple of breakout performances will be. That's next right here on Rhody Football Game Day. Welcome back to Rhody Football Game Day. Connor Derosia, Jonny Blair, and Noah McLane. As right now we're going to break down some of the game preview and predictions. The first question I have for you guys, Connor, we'll start with you, and then we'll move to Jonny right after. Which team and who will score the first touchdown in this weekend's contest?
Yeah, so I had the Rams coming up to Minnesota and punching Minnesota in the mouth with a Marquise Buchanan first touchdown to get on the board early. Some of these FBS teams come in a little underwhelming, these FCS schools, and I think we could see that coming up, and Rhode Island take advantage of today.
Jonny, how about you?
For me, it's also going to be a Rhode Island touchdown, but in a different facet. Last week, Devin Farrell won the game on a passing touchdown, but I think he's going to start this game with a rushing touchdown, get the Rams up 7-0 early.
I'm going to go completely play devil's advocate. I'm going to go Lamika Brockington, the wide receiver for the Gophers, and he's going to catch a touchdown to start things off. So those are our predictions for who and first touchdown. Second is, who has the play of the game? And Connor, we'll start with you.
Well, if the Rams are going to win, we're going to have to control the trenches. And that starts with A.J. Pena, but also Wesley Neal Jr. I think he looked really good last week. And if we're going to win, we need to stop stuff up the middle and maybe get a strip fumble or something. So I think Wesley Neal has a big game if Rhode Island wants to come out good today.
Jonny?
Kind of going on the same logic. I'm going to go with A.J. Pena, the superstar edge rusher for Rhode Island. I think he's going to make a big play in this game. Might be a forced fumble, could be a sack that changes the entire game. But I know he's going to impact this game in a big way.
Well, Connor and Jonny, both of you, I agree 100%. And it's funny you say Wesley Neal because I just had a conversation with him earlier today. And I said, how you feeling about this weekend? He said, I'm fired up and I'm ready to get to work. And I think for those two reasons, this is a guy that loves to have fun, mess around. But when it comes to game time, guys, he is cold-blooded, and he loves to go out there and get things done for this Rhode Island team. I'm going Wesley Neal, play the game. Let's talk about breakout performance of the week. We're going to swing right back over to you, Connor.
For breakout performance of the week, I'm going with my first touchdown guy, Marquise Buchanan. He had 88 yards on 4 catches last week. He crossed the 100 yards mark a couple times last season, and Rhode Island's most likely going to be down and having to throw the ball a lot, and Marquise is the clear number 1 for this squad. Would not be surprised if he gets fed the ball and ends up with well over 100 yards if Rhode Island wants to be successful.
Johnny?
For me, I'm not going to focus on one player. I'm going to say the entire offensive line group. Obviously, we previously talked about this Minnesota defense being super stout, so it's going to be up to the Rhode Island offensive line to protect Devin Farrell in the pocket if they want to stand a chance.
Now, guys, let's jump into something a little bit different. Maybe a surprise performance of this week. Maybe somebody that runs a little bit under the radar. Now, we talked about special teams a lot in this episode. Keep that in mind. Just an idea there. But who has the surprise performance of the week?
I'm going to go with just the entire running back room. Like I said, we're going to be passing a lot, most likely, to get back in the game. And having running backs that are able to catch out of the backfield, like Gabe Sloat, like Deion Silas, is going to be huge for the Rams. So we'll not be surprised if we like to feature them, and that'll open up the run game up the middle as well.
Johnny?
And for me, it's going to be the veteran tight end, Brady Rourke, who has been in this program for a long time. I think he'd be a real safety valve option for Devin Farrell, and I think he could be huge in this game.
Now, guys, I want to talk about this guy. This guy has a big personality. He's a big dude all around, and I'm going to go out. He's worked hard, and now he's getting some more repetition this year. I'm going Jacob Otts. We talked about that defense being such a phenomenal job for Minnesota. He's going to be a guy that opens up a lot of space on that O-line, allows that run game to get through just like you were talking about, but also allows the quarterback to get time and hit his tight end. So we'll see with that. And now finally we get to something interesting. We're going to talk final score prediction. Now, guys, this is an important game for Rhode Island, but again, ahead of today, yesterday, I'm talking to head coach Jim Fleming. He said if we go in there and take care of business and you play 100%, it's a matter of going in there and going out with pride. That is the number one thing that they look to go into this weekend ahead of it. But now let's jump into it. Final score prediction of this weekend's contest. Connor, what do you got?
As much as I'd like to take URI to beat Minnesota, I think they fall 34-17. End of the day, the size of Minnesota, I think, is going to be too much. You've seen this earlier in the season with Colorado and NDSU. The size of Colorado up front, even though they're not great, they're just bigger and faster and stronger. And I think Minnesota might do that. I think the Rams put up some yards as that Minnesota defense, although it is solid, it did not look outstanding against North Carolina. And I think with Devin Farrell's two-way ability, passing and throwing, Rhode Island will be able to move the ball, but I just don't think it'll be enough.
And Johnny, how about you?
I'm going to go in the reverse direction. I think that Rhode Island goes into Minnesota and has an upset against the Golden Gophers. I have a low-scoring game, a lot of defense being played. I have a 14-10 victory for Rhode Island. Low scoring. Max Brosmer, former FCS quarterback here in the CAA as well. I think he's going to struggle against this Rhode Island defense that he's already seen.
Well, I guess we will have to wait and see exactly what will happen this Saturday, 12 o'clock on Peacock. Make sure you guys tune in. Rhode Island and Minnesota, but that's all we have for you today. Again, Connor Derosia, Jonny Blair, myself, Noah McLane. That is all we have for you on Rhody Football Gameday. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Rhody Football Gameday. Thank you so much for joining us this week. And, folks, we do have a very special announcement. Next week, ahead of the game against Campbell, we are going to be coming to you live right here from Meade Stadium. Connor Derosia, Jonny Blair, Noah McLane, and a couple of special guests, including head coach Jim Fleming. So stay tuned to that because, folks, next week, for the first time ever, we are going to be bringing you live action before the game. And, well, we will see you all next week.